Baku Street Circuit in Azerbaijan is the perfect venue to host a Formula One Grand Prix. It's a 6-kilometer long circuit and is the second longest track on the calendar, only bested by Spa in terms of length of the track. This circuit has everything. It has long, endless straights where drivers reach speeds in excess of 340 kilometers an hour. It has fast, sweeping corners that are really dangerous and really slow, technical, narrow corners that will punish you if you make a mistake. This circuit truly has everything. And a lot of people describe it as a mix of Monaco and Monza, because Monza is very fast, lots of fast corners, long straights, and Monaco with its tight, twisting, narrow characteristics. So this circuit has everything, and it appears to be a very good host for a Grand Prix. However, last year's race, the inaugural race, in my opinion, wasn't very exciting, but this year it really delivered a fantastic and entertaining race that left us all in awe. The Saturday of the race weekend was the day of qualifying. Qualifying determines what the starting grid of the order of the starting grid before the race. It's the driver has to do their 3 sessions of qualifying, and the slowest drivers are knocked out in the first 2, like the drivers with the slowest time. So, and the top 10 fastest times advance to Q3, where it's a battle for pole position. So Mercedes were dominant in this, as expected, and they usually are very good in qualifying. Ferrari locked at the front row, but this time it was Kimi Räikkönen starting from 3rd, ahead of Sebastian Vettel, and who's out-qualified for his teammate for only the 2nd time in 8 races. After that, was Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo of Red Bull, who have been consistently in 3rd throughout the season. And after that was Lance Stroll, the 18-year-old Canadian who drives for Williams, qualified an impressive 7th, out-qualifying his teammate Felipe Massa for one of the first times this season. So it looked like, again, that Mercedes would dominate with the race, but it was a very different story from that. It was a very different story. So it was a pretty chaotic start to the race. On the first lap, the two front runners, Kimi Räikkönen and Valtteri Bottas, crashed into each other, and Valtteri Bottas came off much worse and had to pit for a new front wing. And this put him a lap down, which means that he'd have to pass all the cars twice. He'd have to pass all the cars once if he wanted to get onto the lead lap. And Daniel Ricciardo, the Red Bull driver, had debris, I guess, from a car, a piece of carbon fiber perhaps, went into his brake duct. So he had to make an unscheduled pit stop, which basically lost him about 30 seconds, and this dropped him back to 17th place. But he managed to recover back to 10th before the first safety car came out, which was caused by Danny Kvyat breaking down and parking his car in an unsafe place. And Lewis Hamilton managed to open up a 2.5 gap over Sebastian Vettel. So I think a lot of you who are watching may be wondering what a safety car is. So let me explain it for you. A safety car is a car that's a bit slower than F1 cars, and it goes in front of all the F1 cars, which go in a slow file, which slowly circulate around the track and allow the marshals who clean up after a crash or try and get a car off the track to do their job in a safe condition so that no one will get hurt. Once the marshals have cleaned up after the crash, then the race can restart and the safety car will pull into the pits. So this triggered a domino effect of 3 safety cars in succession, because there were so many crashes in this demolition derby, basically, and so many pieces flying off and everything. But the most controversial point in the race was between the 2 championship contenders, Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, who were running 1st and 2nd at that time. So in the first safety car, well, in any safety car, what drivers have to do is that about 3/4 through the lap that the safety car is pulling in, they have to go really slow to give the safety car enough space so that they won't be caught by the F1 cars on the restart. So Lewis Hamilton basically passed the safety car on the restart, so it was a bit dangerous because it has to get out of the way so that the racing can run smoothly. So Hamilton took extra caution to slow down a lot to let the safety car pull away, but this caught his title rival out, and Vettel actually crashed into him from behind. It was a slow speed crash, luckily, so no one was out. But what made it more controversial was Vettel's actions after that crash happened. So after Hamilton suddenly slowed down, Vettel didn't expect this, and bumped into the back of him. So Vettel was known to have to not be able to control himself very well under race conditions, and could get very hot-headed because something would happen. So after the crash, he pulled alongside Hamilton and then raised his hands up in frustration as a hand signal to show Hamilton that he was frustrated. And then the most surprising part was that he rammed his car into Hamilton's. So this gave Vettel a 10-second stop-go penalty. This is the most harsh penalty that someone could give to a driver, other than being disqualified or excluded from the race. So a 10-second stop-go penalty means that Vettel has to pull into the pits, wait in his pit stops for 10 seconds, which seems like forever in an F1 race, and go back out. So that's a loss of about 30 or 40 seconds. So I think this dropped Vettel behind to about 6th place, behind Valtteri Bottas, who was on his fantastic recovery and was running in about 5th place. So Hamilton was leading comfortably and looked sure for the win. But his head restraint that sits on the car, and sometimes you can see drivers taking off before they come out of the car, it started to come off. So his race engineer instructed Hamilton to try and place it back into position while he was driving, but he wasn't able to do it because it had come out too much. So because of safety reasons, he had to pull into the pit so the team could put on a new one. This lost him a lot of time, and he was dropped, I think, to 6th place behind Vettel. So now this begun. Now after a third safety car, a third safety car then came out, third safety car in succession, which bunched up the field all over again. And this began the charge of Daniel Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas, who were both very behind at the start of the race. So off the restart, there were lots of cars going 4 wide or something like that on the very long and wide straight. And Ricciardo took advantage of all of the other cars battling and passed, I think, 3 people at once, and was promoted to first, I'm pretty sure he was promoted to first place, I think. Yeah, he was promoted to first place. Second place was Felipe Massa, who sadly had to retire because he had a broken brake damper. So he lost a lot of speed and had to pull into the pits and retire. And running in second place behind Ricciardo was the 18-year-old Canadian driver Lance Stroll in only his 8th race in F1. It had been a whirlwind of a year coming into this race, and he'd only scored his first points in F1 at his home race, one race before that. But before, he'd been struggling to adjust to the new powerful cars in F1 because he's such an inexperienced driver, only 18 years old. So he was running second, and imagine what would be going through his head, because it was only his 8th race and he was running in second, and he was only less than 5 seconds behind Ricciardo. So maybe thinking of taking the victory. And behind him, third place was Valtteri Bottas, about 13 or 14 seconds behind, with about 10 or 11 laps to go. Behind them were the two championship contenders, Vettel, and then running behind and Hamilton, hot in pursuit, trying to pass him. So, Lance Stroll was on very old tires because the strategy that Williams had in mind was to get him track position at the end of the race and try and fend off the faster cars that were coming in on fresh tires. So because Valtteri was in a very fast Mercedes car that was much faster than Lance's car, he was on very fresh tires, he closed in on Lance Stroll at a rate of over a second per lap. And it was very hard for him to match these times. So with about one, actually on the last lap, Valtteri was on the gearbox of Stroll. But this a big portion of the track is tight and twisty and narrow and very hard to pass. So Bottas had to wait until the final third of the lap where the track started to open up to attempt to pass. That's exactly what happened. And it was like very, very, very late. So there's a long rundown from the final corner till the start-finish straight. And Bottas got an amazing exit, came so far from behind, and managed to pip Lance Stroll of second place by 1/10 of a second. But for the Canadian driver, it was still his first podium. So second or third place, for him, it's still a win. For him, his family, and the team, it's all very important for them. So Ricciardo had an impressive victory, coming from 17th, his first victory of the year and the team's first victory. Valtteri Bottas's an impressive podium after coming last, not only from a lap down, but he's benefited by the safety car because he got that lap back because the safety car came out, and an impressive third place for the 18-year-old Canadian Lance Stroll. Fourth place for Sebastian Vettel. Even though he only qualified fourth, 3 places behind Lewis Hamilton, he still ended up extending his championship lead over him by another 2 points, somehow. I doubt he would have expected it. However, I think he has the right to be disappointed because he was leading and it could have been a routine race victory had he not hit Hamilton with that hot-headedness of his. So, after that, it was Hamilton in 5th. I bet he'll also be disappointed with his bad luck because of the head restraint coming off. Nico Hülkenberg of Renault would have came in 6th, and he would have gotten some very good points for the Renault team, but I'm pretty sure he made a critical error at turn 7, which made him crash out of the race, so he lost all of those points. And in 8th place, I mean, was Fernando Alonso of McLaren. He got their first points of them for the season, which is crucial because they're the last team to score. They were the only team yet to score points this year, so it's good that they could get off the mark. And in 10th place was Sauber's Pascal Wehrlein, scoring points for the very small Sauber team, a very small budget. So it would be huge if they could finish ahead of McLaren this year. It would be a lot of money and a big boost for the team and everyone else. So it was a very, very exciting Azerbaijan Grand Prix, punctuated by 3 safety cars. I don't think I've ever seen that in F1, in an F1 race before. Very, very exciting. One of the best races I've ever seen in recent years, and certainly the best one of the season. So I hope if you watch the race, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this recap, and be sure to check out my blog and all the other media I have. Bye. In my opinion, this will be the race which is the turning point in the season and where the title fight between Hamilton and Vettel starts to become sour. The reason why I think this I think this is because in the first few races, they really respected each other, and especially Hamilton has seemed more relaxed than in his past seasons when he was fighting with Nico Rosberg for the title. And they've been seeming to have a lot of fun. But I think the incident where Vettel ran into the back of Hamilton and then rammed him, especially that is what will sour the relationship with those two drivers. I think this is reminiscent to two huge rivalries. For example, 2014 and 2015 and 2016 with Nico Rosberg and Hamilton. I think initially in 2014 they were friends because they'd known each other for a while. They were teammates in karting, but it was the Belgian Grand Prix in 2014, the incident between those two drivers, that turned the relationship sour and their relationship deteriorated. Same thing with the relationship with Senna and Prost, Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost with McLaren in 1988, when Ayrton disobeyed instructions and passed Prost on the first lap, even though he wasn't supposed to, and he won the race after that and eventually won the championship. I think this you can draw some comparisons between this event and those two past events. So, I think the relationship will turn sour. It'll be a very good title fight, but hopefully these two drivers can maintain respect for each other, even though they traded a lot of words, like, for example, Hamilton calling Vettel a disgrace. Hopefully this will be a distant event in the past as we look back at the season when it's done. Hopefully the things can still stay friendly with them, but there's still a tasty and unpredictable title fight between these two great drivers. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video or learned a lot about F1, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, Kids of F1. Not getting enough of F1 and want some more knowledge? Well, be sure to visit my blog on my shirt, kidsoff1.com, and I post regularly on there. I post many things, like a daily F1 fact, driver bios, F1 race flashbacks, and many other great races in the history of F1, as well as my other YouTube videos. So please check out my blog, and you can visit it with the link right here, with the picture of that young F1 fan. So thanks for watching. I hope you check out my blog. Hit that like button. Remember, subscribe to my channel. Bye.